X-Force number 12 was a huge hit for me. I absolutely loved it. Benjamin Percy is writing. Bazaldua is the artist. GURU-eFX is the color artist. Joe Caramagna is the letterer. Tom Muller is design. I think the two artists, those definitely sound like fake names. So, by the way, there's a lot of reasons I love this. I feel like the biggest reason was that there was a little bit of an underlying message, and you could have interpreted some of these events very different ways if you have different perspectives. And you could have seen some of these events as good things or bad things, depending upon where your mindset is. And that's what I love about great storytelling, great writing. And I believe that Benjamin Percy is very capable of this. I continue to see it in this series in Wolverine, and I really love where this series is going. For me, this has been a warning against obsessive, intense authoritarianism, which I've always been a bit of a protester and a rebel myself throughout my youth and, silently these days. But when it comes down to it, I just love X-Force. So picking back up where we left off, Kid Omega has been brought through the Krakoa portal to Russia. Mikhail is the one responsible. It was by one of those creepy Russian nesting dolls that was hiding in the corpses that jumped out. And Mikhail stands over his body and he says, "I admire that. You do not look like much, boy, but I can sense there is great power in you." And as much of a little whiny crybaby I believe that Kid Omega is, he is definitely one of the most powerful mutants on Krakoa, that's for sure. As he drags him away, looks like Kid Omega's doing something with his powers. We don't find out exactly what that is until the story moves forward a bit. Beast, Sage, and Cecilia Reyes discovered the armored Russian super soldiers that attacked Krakoa are bioengineered to have a smaller agent nested inside. Kid Omega was ambushed by one of these escaped agents who stabbed him with a stolen Cerebro sword and kicked him through a portal to Moscow into the clutches of the mysterious Mikhail. And of course, Mikhail is Colossus's brother. They couldn't be further from different from each other, a villain and a hero, quite literally. So we start out and we see Beast. More plants technology. He has this backpack that he puts on Sage, and it's literally healing her concussion, and it starts that fast, right off the bat, and she's able to get right back to work, and she finds out exactly who's responsible for all of this. It looked like as Kid Omega was being dragged away, he was writing Mikhail's name in his powers right on the ground in Russia. We go back to this very creepy human superior cult, right? And I guess they're called Xeno, right? And so they're doing this crazy bioengineering. It's really creepy dialogue, and I really like the way that he makes it, he really hits the nail on the head in the sense that these guys are the creepiest that you can possibly imagine. The dialogue really does fit it. When something is diseased or broken, you don't waste time healing it. You carve it away. There is the misleading belief that adaptation requires the patience of millennia, but change comes urgently in times of violence. Xeno will continue to spread disinformation, sabotage Xavier's businesses, and disrupt pharmaceutical routes. But even more importantly, we will fight our enemy biologically by cheating evolution. 2 million years ago, there were several species of man walking the planet. Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo neanderthalis, and Homo sapiens, and more. There is room for more. We will continue to sample and graft and splice Homo superior until we create our own new species. The Neanderthal might have developed tools first, but sapiens soon surpassed them with their cunning. Let's make the mutants as irrelevant as the Neanderthal. Mikhail walks in. Irrelevant? Is that why you didn't invite me here? Because I am irrelevant? He holds the Cerebro sword in his hand. Mikhail, how did you find us? I made it my business to know things, including how many meetings Xeno has kept from me. We pause and we go back to the island. We see Omega Red hunting moose. Hunting, well, looks more like a rhino moose. Nevertheless, he is, of course, doing what he does and drinking the blood of these animals. He is held down by Krakoa itself. Of course, it's Black Tom Cassidy initiating this. I was granted amnesty. I thought we were on the same side. Beast says, perhaps. That all depends on your past and present connections to Mikhail Rasputin. Back to the Xeno lab. I understand your prejudice, but it needs refining. Krakoa is what you should fear. And Krakoa is not mutant kind. It is a clumsy, demanding infant of a nation. If you really hope to change the world, you need to harness its powers and make them your own. That means working with mutants against Krakoa. He holds the Cerebro sword to the head Xeno leader's throat. We go back to the scene that really struck me deep in the chest. I felt it really hard. And this is Colossus standing in the fields and farming, and he's approached by Wolverine, by Domino, and by Beast. He says, we have a few questions we're hoping you can answer, Colossus, about the recent security breach, about your national and familial connections. I expected this day would come, says Colossus. Domino says, I'm sorry, Pete, just a few answers is all we need. You're always leaving. Farmers are supposed to stay put. I would like nothing more than to plant some roots. That's something to look forward to when I get back. It's okay, Kayla. I have nothing to hide. Beast stops him and says, one moment, Colossus, before we go through, I was wondering if you might humor me by putting these on. I realize you can rip through them with not much effort, but it's a new policy. I'm sure you understand. When they get to the other side of the gate, and let me say this is in Krakoa. They walk through and immediately it is always Wolverine who is the voice of reason in this series and in most of these books of Dawn of X. He sees so much clearer than the rest of the mutants. He says, the hell is this? Beast, what are they doing here? What have you done? They're standing there, and as they walk through, tons of mutants are all gathered right there. Almost said hundreds. You can really only see about maybe 40, but they're standing there, and they're waiting. And they've made a spectacle of Colossus. He hasn't done anything wrong. He's suspected of nothing even. He just has ties, family ties, to an enemy, a perceived enemy. Sound familiar? It does to me. This white page has been one of my favorites that I've read, period, in all of the Dawn of X books for so many reasons. For the picture that it paints in my mind of the kinds of authoritarianism that we're talking about here, immediately, what comes to my mind is the Patriot Act. And I'll tell you right now, I have always looked down upon spying upon individuals, trying to turn people in for wrongthink. What kind of civilization does that to people? This is exactly the kind of white page that I think so many people in this day and age really need to read. Beast's logbook, The Traitor's Parade. Our efforts to create mutant kind, to forgive the sins of our individual histories and build a fresh future as a sovereign society is of course commendable. But I can't help but think it might also be blindly optimistic. By focusing on the hopeful collective, Xavier's dream ignores the selfish impulses of the individual. Here are very relevant fears: pollution, incursion, traitorousness. We are so focused on guarding our gates that we've neglected to realize what we might have locked ourselves in with. We have brought this concern up with Xavier several times, but he rebuffs or dismisses or sometimes attempts to placate me by saying things like, "Oh, Beast, always anxious, and this is why you're so good at your job." But when I pressed the issue, this was his response. "Because I have everyone here," he said and tapped on Cerebro, "I also trust everyone here." At which time he held a hand over his heart. But we all know this is not a failsafe. Mind wipes and mesmerism and telepathic blocks and I'm sure there are many other tricks I haven't considered could bypass Cerebro. Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon was not merely a brilliant design for a prison, it was a brilliant insight into the philosophy of control. The central guard tower makes the inmates unsure whether they are being observed, and so they behave accordingly. In much the same way, America's crime rates are significantly down due to doorbell cameras, traffic cameras, cell phone cameras. The want to do wrong will always be in us, but the fear of being seen overrides it. I have a plan, and though it may be controversial and condemned by some, I know it is right. We will detain all mutants with Russian ties. We will make their detention a spectacle. I don't want to keep this quiet. I want it to be a parade. I recognize this is unfortunate, but it is also the best possible thing we could do for Krakoa. A little fear and paranoia keep people safe. It's possible our citizens may come forward with valuable information about their neighbors. It's certain our citizens will know that being watched is the same as being watched over. This is absolutely disturbing. And if I had to pinpoint a specific society where we're talking about this kind of behavior, of course, I hate to say it, but Germany in the 1930s is absolutely what I'm talking about. This is the kind of idea that we have to give up our freedoms in order to be more free. That is a fascinating idea, and I strongly disagree with that perspective. And I love that this is being brought up in this book. It's being brought up in such a way that it's not on the nose, that people can make up their own minds about this, where they stand, and how they feel about it. That, my friends, is what good writing does. And that's exactly what this book is. Beast says, "My job, that's what I'm doing. If he's innocent, we'll make a spectacle of that as well." And Wolverine, my hero, says, "You son of a bitch," and slams him hard in the stomach. Absolutely the voice of reason. I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry about this. Domino says to Colossus, "It's all right. I told you, I have nothing to hide." Wolverine chases them all off. "Get the hell out of here, all of you, right the F now." "Maybe after I prove as much, you'll leave me alone." After this, I wouldn't blame you for wanting that. We go back to the Xeno lab, and we see Mikhail handing over the Cerebro sword. He says, "This relationship of ours, it can be about giving as much as taking." He says, "What is this? All the intelligence of Xavier, of Krakoa as a whole, is contained within. How do we access it? That I don't know. But by sharing this, I ask that there be no more secrets, except the ones they keep from us. You have built me an army, but we need to continue our update, our arsenal. You managed to partially replicate Domino's genetic sequence. See what you can do with this one," as he throws Kid Omega on the ground. This is going to change everything if they're able to use his body to duplicate his powers. He's one of the most powerful mutants. And then we see Jean Grey and Wolverine in a final last page, and this is absolutely fantastic. Jean says, "You know I'm not part of this anymore." "I know, Jeannie, but these are special circumstances." "I don't have time for this. Haven't you heard what's happening? We have more than the Cerebro sword to worry about." Wolverine says, "Now or later, you're the only one I trust to figure out the truth." The look of surprise on Jean Grey's face when she sees Colossus tied up as a criminal with Omega Red. This issue alone made me so excited for the next one. And this is the kind of intro that I really love to see into an event. Ten of Swords is going to be great if it's anything like this. I know Benjamin Percy won't be writing it, and I hate to say it, I really wish he would. I love Jonathan Hickman, and I love what he's doing. I just wish that Percy was writing more titles during this whole Dawn of X as well. Guys, this is really cool. This is the kind of thing that I'm really into. You know, it's like I was saying at the beginning, I'm very much anti-authoritarian. And I feel like the more our freedoms are dwindled away, and with this idea that it's for our safety, we lose a part of ourselves. We lose a part of who we are. And I truly do believe that. What do you think? Am I way off base? Are you on Beast's side for this? Are you siding with Wolverine like I am? Love to hear your opinions and perspectives. You tell me that I'm wrong or right. Man, I'm loving X-Force. I'm just loving this book. And I am going to be talking about Ten of Swords when it comes up. We're going to continue to talk about the Dawn of X. And I'm really more excited about this than I have been in a while after reading this issue. So look, folks, get out there. Support your local comic shop. You're the gateway into comics.